Jazz here, and I am so digging the Geekcast radio network.
Greetings, humans. This is Starscream, and you're listening to Toycast. And if any of you call me a partsformer one more time...
Now, Toycast. Oh, yes. Listen in to the only toy podcast you will ever need.
Yada, yada, yada.
Hello and welcome to Toycast. This is episode 184, and I can tell you fine folks that Optimus Solo has finished all of the actual calculations for the top 100 toys countdown. He's just adding a bunch of new stuff and other stuff and trivia and all that good stuff that we end up talking about on those episodes. I'm, of course, TFG and Mike. Joining me once again, almost as always, is Josh the Floorburger.
Well, hello, all you cool cats and dudettes.
That's not how that... Wow. And none other than Mr. David Draper.
Hello.
Hello. I don't think, because we haven't had a chance to do more, Dave, but I don't think anyone's really caught on to my acronym that when you and I do stuff by ourselves when Josh isn't here on the podcast, we are basically mad toy collectors, because Mike and Dave, I don't think anybody's caught on to that yet. Of course, now they know, but and knowing is half the battle. But, yeah, I thought that was hilarious when I started using that as titles for the show. I'm like, oh, man, we are so mad.
Wait, you guys talk about toys without me?
Of course we do. All the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
We talk about toys, and we talk about you, and then,
we talk about sometimes what we wish you didn't do with your toys.
Well, as long as you're talking about me, I'll take that.
Yeah. They're all going to laugh at you. Oh, boy. Yes, this is episode 184, and I don't know what kind of episode it's going to be, even though I have this. So who wants to go first as we break open the display case this time around?
Don't touch!
I think I went first last time.
Josh, you're up.
All right. So this week, month, whatever interval we are on, I am going with the 1993 Special Division of Ninja Force Zartan. And that is a figure that is fully representative of the neon takeover that 1993 represented in Joe. If you go through the timeline of G.I. Joe little by little as the series progressed, you can see flares of bright colors and neon as G.I. Joe was still trying to appeal to those little kiddos, trying to find those nice bright colors. And 93 decided we're going to try every gimmick we can. Now, Dave, I know you are very much well-versed in G.I. Joe over me.
Okay.
Well, you have a much more massive G.I. Joe collection than I do. This is just the era I played with. But this is neon to the extreme, where now I am trying to form a neon shelf of brightly colored figures that react to UV light. And Zartan was not one that was on my radar, I have to admit. This is one of those figures that an influencer got me to become interested in. And we all know him as Pixel Dan. And if you have watched any of his recent Toy Hunt videos, he's been tracking down Ninja Force figures in Zartan. And at one of the last toy shows, after I realized that a lot of neon orange plastic from this era reacts quite a bit with UV light. So from Ninja Turtles to, I think I have Toxic Crusaders. There's a bunch of different figures I have that have neon orange paint or neon orange paint or plastic that it just reacts very, very boldly. And this is one of those. So I was at the last Kane County in April and looking around, and I was asking people, hey, can you keep an eye out? Can you look around? Can you see what you can find? And sometimes certain influencers do have an effect on people wanting to buy certain figures. I don't know if there's any metrics that support Pixel Dan creating the vast interest in food fighters again, but I think there is at least some possibility that's the case. So I didn't know if that was what I was realizing at Kane County last year, that this was a very hard figure to find, and I'm running around and I'm taking little breaks from my booth every so often. And I actually found one carded for $15, which seems like a very good price for a carded Joe, especially a more obscure one. And if you actually ever see it, it really is a unique figure where Zartan, who's known as the Master of Disguise, it says it on the card back, that as a Master of Disguise, he has a bright neon orange mohawk. He has, I don't know if it's a tattoo or face paint, a la Sting from professional wrestling. He's got.
Well, he has that. I think he has something like that in the original. It's not a bright orange, but it's like a black version of that.
Yeah.
Figure. Yeah.
I don't know.
The Dreadnought logo.
Okay, so I don't know if that's a tattoo or face paint or whatever.
Or a hologram. Depending on which version you went with, he was a mutant or a guy who actually just used disguises or had holograms. They were not consistent with Zartan's deal.
No, and Zartan, his card back actually describes him as he is a master of makeup and disguise, a ventriloquist. So he's really good at stage shows with dummies, a linguist, an acrobatic contortionist, and a practitioner of numerous mystical martial arts. Doesn't really speak to his ability, what allows him to change his face, although the card back does say he has a shuriken shaved mohawk, which I actually appreciate that, and a rawhide leather jacket. It doesn't say anything about his face. But he does come with the typical weapon tree, where he has his bow and arrow, some swords, some other stabbing weapons. He's very stabby. Bright neon orange or neon green pants, and he has a action feature of the Maroto chop. And I just think it's a delightful figure. It lights up very bright under neon light. It really kind of fits that era of that 90s extreme colors and action features. It's trying to cover all the gimmicks all at once. And it's currently one of my favorite figures that I have on my shelf. And I have Pixel Dan to thank for bringing it to my attention, because I ordinarily probably would have passed it over. And that's all I have to say about that.
All right, then, Forrest.
Well, I know that they redid him, the Collectors Club redid him towards the very end of the Collectors Club as a modern era figure. He came with like the bike that they issued with some other dreadnought, like that they kind of made up for the modern line. I can't remember specifics, but like they do have a modern era version of this figure. I don't know if it was under light, but or under blacklight. Sorry.
Yeah, I am finding that certain orange plastic does not glow, and some does. The RoboCop orange plastic from that line does not glow. It's interesting. I will look up that Zartan Collector Club.
Oh, I'm sure it's worth all the money. All the Collectors Club stuff is stupidly expensive.
$140 to start.
That's not bad.
That's not bad. I mean, it was probably pretty close to that when it came out, because they charged all the money to begin with, and then it got more expensive.
Yeah, it's pretty close to the original. It looks like there are some reused parts. It does try to grab that orange. I don't think it's going to be the neon orange that I appreciate.
I'm just saying in general that figure has a modern variant. So.
Yeah, you have a couple of the Collector Club figures.
I have a lot of them, actually. Because I got into it towards the end, so like I was buying all the stuff that came out. I do have that figure. I've got both those figures.
So, if you don't mind me asking, do you have any of them open?
Oh, of course.
How does their durability, their construction hold up as far as a smaller volume?
Oh, Collectors Club?
Yeah.
It was actually made at the Hasbro factories.
Okay. I wasn't sure about that.
It's absolutely comparable with a regular Hasbro Joe from that era.
Oh, okay, very cool. Yeah, I'm looking at a picture of it right now, and they're relatively close, but a lot of the more modern Joe figures, they muted a lot of those neon colors in the remakes of some of the 92, 93 figures. Ooh, he was on Big Bad Toy Store originally for $120.
Huh.
That's not bad.
Not bad.
No, it's with the motorcycle and the accessories and everything. It's actually a really cool looking figure. But yeah, it's I really enjoy this figure. I like very neon, bold, ridiculous figures that if you made them into realistic costumes for a film or TV show, they would look like something out of a 1980s UK rave.
Yeah, that's the funny thing is he's a 90s figure, but he looks like he's from The Warriors, which is an 80s film. Like he has a very 80s design to him. Aside from the brightness of the colors, like he looks like some bad 80s Canon films. Crime in the City. He's the bad guy because he's got the mohawk and he's got the sleeveless jacket or vest.
It's very very British punk sort of post-apocalyptic look, Australian, and I'm sure a lot of the designers back then would use a lot of reference images and just look through different options, and that's how they create their characters. They do now.
Yeah, I'm sure they did.
So, yeah, that's my pick for the week is... Oh, I do want to point out, though, that this was also the era, and Dave, I don't know if you were still shopping for Joe's or looking at Joe's in 93.
93, I was graduating from college.
Yeah, so you probably were moving on from things I was into, but... The bright pink packaging is very surprising of the time. Yeah,
having picked some up after the fact, it's very obnoxious. I'm sure a fan of the era loves it, but it's an eyesore.
I appreciate it for why they were doing it because they're competing with so many toys on the shelf at the time, and bright colors apparently attract children, and that's what the goal was
for a little while.
Yeah, and to make it visible from a distance. But it doesn't fit with anything else I have, but it doesn't bother me. It's not anything I have a problem with. I actually just appreciate in an ironic sense, I appreciate the complete obnoxious nature of the color.
Well, it fits in with the rest of your 90s neon stuff you have, right?
Yeah. I'm keeping this one in package. I have another Zartan that I got a couple different pieces together and just had to like Frankenstein the Ninja Force Zartan together, and I have that one loose. This one's staying in the package because the neon pink, the neon orange, the neon green, it all just works for me on that shelf, and I will continue to broaden that variety as I'm looking through 93 and picking more.
Well, there you go. I know Funko isn't your bag most of the time, Josh, but I will suggest you maybe start investigating Funko blacklight figures. Not exactly neon, but very, very similar. I have numerous ones, and they are really cool.
I actually have to admit that one of the first ones that popped up was a Gremlin, and that would fit.
Yeah. I think you would like I think you would like the Funko Blacklight Gremlin figures. They've got Batman the Animated Series. They've got a very orange with purple hair Kate Bishop from the Hawkeye series from Disney Play. They've got all kinds of Blacklight stuff from Funko that fit literally. Yeah. I had to actually, I have a small Blacklight keychain on my keyring. In order to make a video about these things, I had to actually go and buy off of Amazon a larger blacklight to get a better scope of whatever to have the video show up. Weirdest thing about buying large blacklight flashlights on Amazon or anywhere else, half the time, would you like to find bugs in your house? This is the best way to... I'm like, really? That's a selling point for a UV blacklight? Okay. All right.
Actually, it's not a bad thing to travel with when you're staying at hotels, but...
Well, true.
Yeah. And I'm looking through some of these blacklight ones you're referring to. I would probably go with the more creature-looking ones. Like I said, the Gremlin. There's Zero from Nightmare Before Christmas. I'd probably go for more of those for that shelf than anything else. So, I'll keep an eye out. I think I've seen a couple around.
Yeah, that was very cool. All right, Dave, you're up. Is that Little Shop of Horrors?
No, that is from this year's Hasbro's Dungeons and Dragons line. I think it's called the Gold Box line. It's technically based on the movie, but he wasn't in the movie. It is a Beholder. It is, in fact, Xanathar. I'm going to get the name wrong. but he's actually kind of a known character in the D&D universe. He's a very famous resident of Waterdeep, the city that the movie took place in. And beholders are one of my favorite D&D monsters because it's one of the really unique D&D monsters. Like, most of them were like from Tolkien or from mythology, or from Lovecraft. But this was like he's a big orb that floats in the air. He's got a mouth. He's got an eye in the center, and then he's got these stalks, these eye stalks. Like I think 10 of them. I don't even know my beholder mythology properly. But each eye has like a different beam that it can cast, and then the center eye does dispel magic. They're a very tough adversary. Like all the really cool D&D monsters are like really hard, which is kind of like disappointing when you want to like throw them in. It's like you fight a beholder, and all the first level players are like, we die. But he's very cool. I've always wanted them to do a D&D toy. I'm sad because he's 1/12 scale. But the whole line, like the movie figure line was 1/12 scale. His mouth opens and closes. There's a little lever on the roof of his mouth that makes his eye move, so he can look left or right. And he's got a little, instead of a clear stand, he's got like a pile of gold that he sits on, which is a separate thing. And then he comes with his beloved fish, Sylgar. And like part of the thing is like Zenithar is like crazy. Like he's a crime lord. He's kind of like Jabba the Hutt in Waterdeep. He's a crime lord who lives. But Sylgar is like his only confidant, his beloved. He talks to him, even though the fish is just a normal goldfish. And I've read that like it's a goldfish, so it tends to die, and like his minions like immediately find another goldfish before Zenithar notices, because nobody knows what's going to happen if his beloved goldfish dies. One of the books is called Zenithar's Guide to Everything, and the cover is just like a picture of Sylgar, and then in the background you can see Zenithar looking at him like all happy. It's just a weird, quirky, like little thing that I like about D&D.
Very cool, very cool. Yeah, when you sent me the pictures, I was like, Audrey 2?
No,
I know it's not, but like just the way, because I was too young and stupid to get into D&D, I guess, back then. So I just never, other than and Josh, you might want to pick this up, even if you're not a D&D person. Funko did a glow-in-the-dark gelatinous cube version of the gelatinous cube.
So the gelatinous cube I actually found on clearance.
There you go.
At Target not too long ago for about $5 or so. And I don't know why, but that was actually a ridiculously difficult piece to put together for me.
Yeah.
I do enjoy it.
It was.
It turned out that I just had everything sort of upside down, and it took a second to kind of orient myself, rather, I would say. But I actually was a huge fan of the Beholder when I was in middle school and high school. I had a friend who really enjoyed Dungeons and Dragons. He had a couple of books, and we were both trying to learn how to play. And what connected me with Dungeons and Dragons was I loved, I don't know if it was just called the Monster Book or Book of Monsters or something. Yeah. And we would just flip through it and just admire the art and the story behind each one of them. And we always came back to the Beholder. And I think it's because we sort of connected it with Big Trouble in Little China, where there's sort of an Amish character. Yeah. And also the Cacodemon from Doom looks very similar.
Yes, it does. That was my kind of stand-in Beholder toy. Like they had like a vinyl squishy one. So.
Yeah, and it has a lot of depth for me. When I saw this, I was like, ooh, if I ever can find this for a reasonable price, I might jump on it.
I think it's a Hasbro Pulse exclusive, although like a bunch of those came over to Big Bad all of a sudden. So
Yeah, and that's the one I'm looking at right now, and if it ever dropped in price, I'd maybe one day consider it, but I don't really have a ton of Dungeons and Dragons stuff. I do have the War Duke, the original War Duke from the early Dungeons and Dragons line. But this is actually really cool. Yeah. Do you know if the tentacles are bendy or are they just kind of locked in place?
They are articulated at where it plugs in at.
That's it. Okay.
That's about it. Yeah.
That's still pretty nice. I mean, they gave it the movable eye, the movable jaw. I think that's really neat. And I love the fish and the story behind the fish. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I thought it was cool they included him, and he's in his own little fish tank, and it's
such a small,
fussy to stand
touch.
upright. But yeah. The little touches are what makes it special. Like with the gelatinous cube, there's a bag of holding in it, which is removable. All that stuff's removable from the gelatinous cube, which is kind of cool. And it's apparently a bag of holding has a stupid face pattern on it, which looks dumb, but it's just that's what's on a bag of holding, and they actually did that on the little plastic accessory. So I like the little attention to detail of stuff like that.
Yeah, whoever's managing that Dungeons and Dragons line, I'm sad it probably didn't do as well as it could have. Oh,
it's heartbreaking because the movie was so much fun.
I haven't seen it
fun,
yet.
And it's very faithful to especially 5th edition D&D.
Yeah, and I want to see it really badly. I never saw anything past the first series, so I never saw the Chris Pine character. I never saw him in stores or anything. Yeah. And I always followed it, and there's a couple for clearance right now at Target. The Michelle Rodriguez character, and I think the Hugh Grant. Is it Hugh Grant? I'm not sure if he's.
It is Hugh Grant. Yeah, there's Hugh Grant, and then there's a third character who I think Simon's in it. Can't remember if Simon's in the first wave or a later wave. But there were 3 characters in the first wave. It was her, it was Hugh Grant, and I can't remember who else.
Like a magician type guy, I think.
Yeah, it was Simon. Okay, then it was Simon.
Yeah, and they're all on clearance right now at my Target. I just saw them today when I went to go pick up a couple things, and the only one that's interesting to me is the Michelle Rodriguez character. I like the warrior, and I always liked her as an actress and stuff like that. But whoever's on it does I think understand some of the lore of D&D and is really having fun with that line. Just from what I'm seeing.
I think the figures are very faithful to the movie, which again is very faithful to D&D.
Did you get any of the cartoon figures?
I got all the cartoon figures. I got all the movie figures. You don't know.
Well, yeah, I'm just checking in.
Yeah, no.
Did you have any of the QC issues I heard about with the first run?
No, but I heard about the QC issues pretty early. I think I had Hank open when then I was reading about how everybody had everything. So I was very gentle with them. I was very careful.
And usually when you have your stuff up, you don't do a ton of dynamic playtime or anything with them. So
no.
I really like the line. I actually ended up getting I had a really nice gift card, and I got the War Duke, and I can't remember the other character, but the big dark knight from NECA.
Yeah, I don't remember him either. I don't remember his name either, but yeah, I know who you're talking about.
I got those just because I think they're outstanding, and I just had a really nice gift card. So I found them all at once, and I haven't seen them since.
Yeah, they're very nice. I've got them too, and then I have the original ones.
I have the original War Duke to hang out, like I said before. So yeah, I think I want to learn to play D&D. It's a goal of mine. It's something I really want to do, and seeing these figures just gets me more interested.
I mean, it's. I enjoy the game. I basically majored in it. Well, actually, I majored in other games in college, but D&D was kind of always the heart of it. I mean, it is what you bring to it. And it's surprisingly, even D&D, because everyone thinks that D&D is basically just Tolkien,
Yeah.
But I mean, there's Ravenloft, which is very gothic, kind of old 30s Universal monsters kind of thing, like vampires and werewolves, and then there's this one called Eberron, which I was just reading about, which is very pulp fiction-y, 1930s shadow, and it's got that kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
It's surprisingly it's surprisingly dynamic, although the system is very sort of magic warrior kind of oriented. I mean, there's all kinds of role playing games. It's I like it. It's good.
Yeah, I got into one game. I think we only had about 2 or 3 sessions, and I really got into the character and the role play part of it. I really liked that a lot. It was during COVID, so I was looking for any sort of outlet I could possibly get, and I glommed onto it. So that's why I want to get back into it now that times are a little different.
Grimsword, by the way, was the name of the other guy.
Grimsword, yes, thank you.
I looked it up. Because he's a second series. I know all the first series figures by heart, but the second series figures, I don't really know their names.
Yeah.
It's yet another thing in my collection that I have, and I don't know what it is. I don't know what it's called. The thing on the shelf to gather dust.
I bought it years ago.
I did. It was a D&D thing. I had to have it.
Yep.
Hey, this is a good time for anybody who's ever into D&D.
Yeah, I think it's really riding high these days. I think Critical Role and some of the other Let's Plays on YouTube and other. I think COVID, like you said, you were doing it during COVID. I think COVID kind of helped people kind of just play online.
Stranger Things.
Stranger Things. That was when you asked about the Monster Manual. I was going to quote it. It's my favorite line from Stranger Things. Is Dustin is using the Monster Manual as references, and the sheriff guy goes, "That's just a game book," and he goes, "It's a manual."
Yeah, and that was the show that sort of brought it back to my radar, and I really was interested in it again. So it's just I have to find people who are patient and willing to teach me. So I have an attention span of a thing with a short attention span.
Yeah.
Gnat. I think the word you're looking for is gnat.
What are we talking about again?
Your attention span. It's a gnat. Oh boy.
It's a gnat. It's a gnat. What?
No.
It's a gnat 20.
There it is. There it is. We call that a segue.
There you go. Speaking of segues.
More than meets the eye.
So, Funko Pop Lights and Sounds Optimus Prime. I don't think I've talked to... I know I've mentioned him on the show, but I don't think I've actively talked about him. I was so worried about... And I know I've mentioned this... I've told this on the show before, but I was so worried about it when I first saw it, because I'm like, if they don't get the voice, then... Because there are plenty of other people who out there who imitate Peter Cullen, then I ain't buying it. Because, no. But yeah, he's on a stand. He's 4 inches tall. He really feels like, I mean, other than his giant Funko head, he really does feel like the Generation 1 Optimus Prime toy just on a stand. And if you tap his head, he'll say stuff.
Autobots, roll out.
The sad thing is, he only says 2 lines. More than meets the eye, and Autobots roll out. The third sound effect is the transform sound effect. Now, I know Peter Cullen is getting up there in age and all of that and whatever else, but really, Funko, you couldn't have had him do at least one more line? Like, one shall stand, one shall fall, or something? I'm happy I have it. It's cool, but man, I wish there was more sounds with this thing. I mean, at least with R2. R2 has, of course, R2 is just mostly sound effects anyway, but at least R2 has, 6 different sounds. And I get it. You got to pay the voice actors, and you should
that's what I was going to say.
Pay the voice actors.
You got to pay them. So.
Yep. No, absolutely. But that's my point. They should have paid him for more than just 2 lines.
Well, how much did you pay for the toy?
$18.
Well, then you probably would have paid $24.
And that's fine. If I get more, I'll pay more for it, I mean, there are Funko Pops I've bought that I've spent $24, $28, whatever.
They're called dollars.
That's true. Obviously, he's larger, but Unicron pisses me off. Because GameStop can't sell him now. They're discounting him. I bought him MSRP $40. It's a 10.5-inch figure, which is fine. That's fine. That is what the MSRP was. I had no problem paying for it because I wanted it, but it just makes me so upset now where it's like, yeah, we can't get rid of him. You should have just waited.
See,
that FOMO just kills you, folks.
My thing is, I think this is the second time we've done the show with Josh, and he keeps going, oh yeah, I went to Target and bought this thing that you paid full price for, and I'm like, but the thing is, you never know,
right?
For me, it's back when Power of the Force was the big Star Wars line. I remember walking into a Walmart, and the actual rack or the toy thing, I don't know what you would say, what we call the aisle, I guess, went all the way up to the ceiling. And it was all Reese and the Death Star Trooper, which were the new figures that had just come out. And there were tons of them. And I was like, oh, that's, and I got one of each. And then I decided, I kind of like a second Death Star Trooper. They were gone. And they were so scarce after that, like no one ever found them again, that the Star Wars fan club eventually like released them as a special release.
Oh wow!
Like, you never know what's going to be common as dirt. I mean, you can get like usually first wave stuff is pretty a good guess, and last wave stuff is a pretty good guess that it'll go fast. But you never know what's going to be there and what's going to be easy to get and what's just going to disappear and you're going to have to chase it and get it on eBay. I mean, Jason and I both, like we both had like second regret, or I don't know what you call it, like FOMO. Like we regretted missing out on the Stunticons,
right? And
so we chased down stupid Motormaster.
Yeah,
chased down Motormaster, and we both spent more than retail, a bit more than retail to get them. And then immediately after Jason got his, like Big Bad was like re-release of Motormaster and the entire Stunticon set, and it's like, ugh, sons of bitches. So.
And that's been going on for nearly 40 years now, because I remember as a kid the Devastator gift set.
Yeah, that's what I got. Yeah, back in the day.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, like man,
I remember seeing Devastator.
If you
knockoff bootleg toys in Easter baskets.
Yeah. I still had them up till like a couple of years back.
Yeah. And at least they stopped selling them around my area, because if I would have seen one, I probably would have gotten one by now. But a lot of that knockoff stuff I just unfortunately missed out on, like big time.
I think it's a good thing. Like, I don't want to knock knockoffs, but just I want the real damn, like, I don't want.
I think the appeal of knockoffs to collectors is after you have the real one, and it's like, what do you buy then? You know,
right?
And there's only so many like weird figures that were only released in Patagonia you can track down, and eventually you go, okay, well, how about that weird knockoff Devastator? How about that weird? Like, I have a knockoff Transmetal Megatron.
Ooh, I've heard about that one.
Well, no, it's Transmetal too. It's the Dragon one.
It's the Dragon,
yeah. Which was like at like a Dollar General or something. It was really super cheap, and I was just like, I like that toy. So I have that. I have
smaller, I believe.
No, he's the exact same size. Mine is the exact same size.
Okay, because there was a small. They had there were a couple of knockoffs that were shrunk in scale.
Yeah, mine comes with like a little electric dude. I think it's like from the show, but like he wasn't with that toy. So like, he wasn't with the original Megatron.
Right? Yeah. Huh. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You have, like, let's just say 11, 12 years ago, you have all these companies, like, I don't think they're around anymore, but, what the hell is their stupid name? They did the upgrade kits.
Oh, I know.
There's a bunch of different ones.
The ones that I get are still around.
Specific one, Fans Project. They did Fans. It was Fans Project, City Commander, Shadow Commander. They did upgrade kits for the then current releases of Ultra Magnus, Optimus Prime, Shattered Glass Optimus Prime, things like that. But my point is, you have all these third-party companies back then, and even now to this day still, doing various things that were not licensed by, like, they were, like, this is our you'll appreciate this, Dave, Quakewave! Quakewave is essentially Shockwave generation.
I have that.
Yeah, sure you do. But, like, I don't mind that, but at the same time, I still would want Hasbro to do a proper release.
Well, they did.
No, I know they did. No, I know they did eventually, but that's my thing between actual Hasbro product versus the knockoffs is I want to see yes, the Quake Wave was awesome, but I wanted back then to see what Hasbro would have done, and obviously we've seen that now. So that's, like, in general, it is what it is. Hey, I'm getting into not full model kits, just easy model kits. The YOLO Park Generation 1 Pro Series Megatron is coming next month. Yeah, this episode will release before the end of September. Because it'll be out this Friday the 29th, so that's, yeah. But they're doing a Generation 1 AMK Pro Megatron, Advanced Model Kit Pro Megatron. Basically, it's the easiest model kit in the world. It's all already painted and everything else. All you have to do is basically just put it together. And I'm just like, okay, cool. I can deal with that. And they just announced, as of this recording, the Optimus Prime version of the AMK Pro series. So I'm very excited to see where YOLO Park goes with what they're doing.
I have gotten a couple of upgrade kits. I got some upgrade kits for the Optimus. I think that was a Headmaster or Power of the Primes or something.
Optimal Optimus was Beast Wars.
Yeah, I think it was like a later Transmetal.
Yeah.
It was Transmetal 3, but they redid Optimal Optimus for
Power of the Primes.
Power of the Primes. And I got a couple of the upgrade kits for that, and they made all of the difference in that figure. It took it from something that I was like, to, wow, this actually really has some homages to the original figure, but makes it something so much more special and unique. So I really like the little upgrade kits. They do make a difference. I'm looking at one right now for the Megatron, the Dragon Megatron that just came out recently, and it's pretty fun.
Yeah, I got one for. I've gotten several, but the last one I got was for when they did Black Zarak. It was basically Scorponok, like just with different colors. And I thought, okay, I'll get the upgrade kit and make him a little different than Scorponok. It was just like you literally were taking that thing apart, and like it was very in depth. It wasn't just like snap a thing on. It was like, take apart like the little ratchet held thighs and knees, and it was a nightmare.
I didn't have that experience with mine. It was actually very satisfying in a weird sort of way. It worked really well. It was very quick. It made a lot of sense. And when it was done, it's a thing of beauty. I really appreciate it because it's been one of my favorite iterations of any Prime as long as I've been a collector. And to have the original and this upgraded version up on my shelf is, just a fun little self-accomplishment.
Yeah, it's one of the... Well, no, there have been 5 and 6 changers, but for Beast Wars specifically, it was one of the original bots that had 4 modes, because he has 2 robot modes and he has 2 vehicle modes. He has a flying mode and a car mode, and then the robot mode. It's just the robot face and the ape face switch.
There's some slight differences in posture and the armor and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
And I think that was when they really were just trying to say, hey, let's just create the toy first and then create the show model. And it just looks like when he's doing the tank mode or the jet mode, it just looks like he's in his robot mode laying down on his face and zooming about the room.
Yeah, on the show, it's very fluid.
But I think what I liked about it in that show is that it got to that point where there's some vehicle reference to it, but it didn't have to look pretty by that point.
Yeah.
And you didn't have to look like a sleek vehicle. You could look like a monkey that was part robot, part vehicle, and it didn't really matter.
Yeah. Absolutely.
There's a lot of really cool upgrade kits, man.
Oh, yeah.
How do they do this before the figure even comes out? Like a lot of these are released the same time the figure is hitting stores.
I don't know.
Me either.
It's just pretty impressive. Well, have you guys seen the growing response to a lot of Hasbro toys and Mattel toys from it's called Ramen Toy?
No.
Dave, have you seen that at all?
I don't think so.
So they came out with the more Dolph Lundgren He-Man head. They're coming out with their own version of the Engine of Vengeance that Hasbro didn't come out with. They're coming out with it for about $150 cheaper. They're doing their own version of the NECA sewer layer.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
Well, it's just that there's a lot of toy companies that are looking and seeing gaps they can fill, and they're finding a way to do it, and it's really quite incredible. I'll send it to you guys real quick.
Well, I mean, it depends on the thing, but I'm pretty sure the Dolph Lundgren head is more of a rights thing.
Oh,
so
yeah.
They're just basically kind of breaking the law.
Oh, yeah. So this company is just not even caring about that type of thing. So it makes such a difference when you see the Dolph Lundgren head compared to the original Mattel one. It's two entirely different people.
I would hope so.
Well, they should have really pushed to get those rights if Dolph was giving them out. Like I think it would have made a huge difference. I just don't know how expensive that is, or if he's just not doing it. He's just, as far as I know, he's just doing cameo videos.
Well, and it could also be, well, I mean, yeah, just for Dolph's head. I mean, you need his permission, but like, you know, the rights to those movies are famously screwed up.
Oh yeah, with Masters of the Universe, yeah, that's completely tied up and all sorts of weird. But yeah, you get because they're doing also what is this?
They're doing a lot of Centurions crap.
Yeah, that Centurions, tons of Centurions references. There's a lot of cool stuff. The heads are very high quality. I actually really like those. And the what do you call it? The Marshal, cartoon
Brave Star, basically. Yeah.
Brave Star. That was tempting, but just not. I don't have a strong enough connection to pay that kind of money. The Aces of Aviation are supposed to be. They initially were doing something very close to Tom Cruise, but they got nailed legally very fast. So that's a cool figure, though. If you actually have a F-14 Tomcat to fit it in.
I still haven't watched Mission 7 yet. Mission 7 Part 1, I should say. What else we got going on, fellas?
I just observed Hasbro had another giant Target clearance event or something occurred. I don't know if anybody else saw that.
Nope.
No. I know as of this recording, because Steve and I haven't had a chance to record it, they just had their monthly whatever PulseCon, not monthly PulseCon.
Oh, the PulseCon releases.
They do the live, but it's not like, yes, PulseCon is like supposedly supposed to be once a year, but they also do like these every once or twice every couple of months. They'll do these Hasbro Pulse fan streams that are just, hey, here's what we're doing, which is great. I think that's cool. I think that's awesome that they're doing that for any of the brands, whether it's Star Wars, Power Rangers, Transformers, whatever. But since speaking specifically to Transformers, I'm just like, okay, that's great. I don't really care about half the stuff they announced. I'm more excited for the Omega Rangers in the Power Rangers line than I am half the stuff that... Yeah.
Those are cool. And I didn't watch the entire live stream. I actually just caught coverage of it.
Yeah.
But that was a really long time to expect customers to be sitting around and watching.
Well, I think the thing is that because Hasbro owns, like I've already said, Transformers, Power Rangers, Star Wars, G.I. Joe, Dungeons and Dragons, other things, like, I think the reason why that they tell you, hey, Transformers is going to be at 11 a.m. Eastern. Okay, good. It's probably going to be an hour or so. If you're only interested in Transformers, that's probably all you're going to watch. And I do like, if you're not going to watch it live, since I have YouTube pulled up here, what I do like is that Hasbro Pulse's YouTube channel has put out the individual segments as YouTube videos. So, like I said, if you just want the Star Wars stuff, you can go to their YouTube channel and click on the Star Wars video to see the Star Wars reveals. You don't have, like, you're absolutely right, Josh. It's insane if anyone's going to sit there for that length of time for all the toy lines. But if you have one specific toy line and you don't need to watch it live, then going back and watching it after the fact is more than fine, at least for me anyway.
Well, and I'm also sure that there are plenty of like websites that cover, that cover toy lines, and they're monitoring and so they're like, okay, the Marvel panel's coming up. You're kind of sitting there refreshing the website, like, okay, well the Marvel panel's coming up,
Yep.
Yeah, and I like a lot of the toy lines that they covered. It seemed like a lot to try to get people to watch. There was some really cool stuff. The fact they're doing a 6-inch Helix, which Dave, I know you're not a 6-inch person, but that Helix is actually really cool. Joe scale figure as well.
No, it's not. It's 6 inches.
No, they have.
It's not Joe scale at all.
Well, the original one, the first one that came out.
Yeah, that was a cool figure.
Yeah,
that was Joe scale.
Yeah, and there's a couple cool Transformers. Nothing really caught my eye. Nothing jumped out at me. It was like, ooh, I need to get this. Everything looked great. Just nothing that would get me to take my wallet out.
Yeah. Well, I will say about the September 22nd, 2023 Hasbro PulseCon video, it does have 215,000 views, so...
Yeah, and
I guess people are willing to sit through, and like Dave mentioned, most toy websites that actually report on the toy news are obviously going to sit there and take all the notes and are not going to wait a day or so until they, whatever, so...
Yeah, that's most of them, back in the, I really haven't followed it too closely, but it used to be that, you could, click refresh, and it would be like, and this figure got announced, and this figure got announced, and refresh, and this figure got announced, and people would not tweet, but live update their thing.
Yeah.
On
the announcements.
I do miss those old SDCC days of following coverage and releases and stuff, and I'm even looking through the Foosh coverage, speaking of different outlets that cover that stuff, and Foosh has everything covered. You don't have to watch the whole thing at all.
Yeah.
And there's some really cool stuff that they revealed and they came out with. They're really coming along. I know I was actually surprised to see that I heard rumors that they're going to be going back to the O-Ring Joes as an actual line. Dave, I don't know.
Didn't they try that? They've already brought back a couple.
Well, they had the HasLab Sky Striker, was that?
Yeah, Sky Striker had O-ring figures, and then the Joe Transformers figures are O-rings.
And
the Stalker and the I think the Baroness. Yeah, the Baroness that came with his tank.
Yeah, those look super cool. I'm surprised that they haven't tried to go a little bit more.
I don't think it went over. I think they released a Cobra Soldier. So they released a set that I don't think sold very well.
Well, I guess
I think everybody's all in on after a slow start, everybody's all in on Classified, and nobody really wants to go back to 4 inches and the O-ring.
See, I like Classified. I think it's a great line. And I'm not saying this because I'm an older collector or anything. I just think there's something more charming and fun about the old O-ring scale.
Yes, I prefer that scale. I mean, most of my toys that I had were that scale. I think you get more cool stuff from that scale than you can at a 6-inch scale.
Oh, for sure.
The weird thing about Classified is that it started trying to do something new and then has immediately just backpedaled into the familiar stuff. If you look at those first wave figures, their designs were the idea was the classic designs, but they were updated. Scarlett's outfit was kind of different, and everybody's outfit was a little bit different. And now they're just back to remaking the original figures. And I mean, for favorite characters, beloved characters, I can see that. But I'm just not gonna It's why I never got into the Black Series. I'm not gonna buy the same damn thing all over again.
Oh, I totally understand, and it's weird that when Classified came out, there was a lot of people who didn't like the new design. They said, "Oh, go back to nostalgia."
No, they didn't. Yeah, that's the whole thing. It's all about nostalgia. That's why. I mean, G.I. Joe is still doing G.I. Joe versus Cobra. It's all about that's why Transformers is pretty much Optimus Prime and all the G1 characters, just different versions, but there's pretty much the G1 characters. Now the Beast Wars characters are kind of coming into their own.
So it's funny you say that.
Because those kids are now old and nostalgic, but...
Yep. But it's funny you say that, because at the thing this week, the Transformers Legacy United is the next evolution of the toy line, of the main toy line for next year.
Mm-hmm.
All of it is everything. There's like 7 Generation 1 figures. Everything else is from everything else in the last 40 years of Transformers.
But it's still not new.
Oh no, it's new.
No, you said it's from the last 40 years.
But okay.
I know what you're saying. It's technically a new toy that has been created in the modern era. What I'm saying is it's a character that someone has a nostalgic attachment to.
No, what I'm saying is the actual toys, normally you would think going into an anniversary year they would be all about Generation 1 and doing more modern versions.
But that's all they've done.
Right, exactly. That's my point. And it was pointed out to me and several other people in several YouTube videos. If you look at and I'll show you guys the poster later, the poster for Transformers Legacy United is Robots in Disguise 2001. It's all this other stuff.
But Robots in Disguise was all the classic characters. There was Optimus. There was Bumblebee. There was that's the animated series one, isn't it? Robots in Disguise.
Yeah,
There was
all the class. That was Shockwave. That was Mega. Like it was all the classic characters. I mean, there were one or two new. They had Waspinator as a car, which was cool. As like Bumblebee's arch nemesis. There were neat little variations, but it was I think Lockdown was the only unique character from that, and he's been done like 10 times since then. That's my point. It's like it's from Robots in Disguise. Yeah, okay, so another slightly different Optimus.
And
another Bumblebee.
And I think part of that is that these companies are doing what I'm kind of seeing in these throwback groups that are getting together in the music industry. Why are Backstreet Boys kind of bigger now than maybe they were back in the 90s and early 2000s? Because those are all moms now with incomes that they can use to buy really expensive tickets to go see them. I'll say this from experience. I was at a Backstreet Boys concert. Almost everybody there was probably in their 30s and 40s. So now with a lot of these properties, and the men's room was completely empty. It was amazing. It was great.
Well, yeah, I think with music it's even doubly so because I mean, like, when was the last Backstreet Boys album? I mean, charted or when was their last hit song? I mean, music is
just
really
a couple of years ago, actually.
Really?
Yeah, just a couple. They just had an album, I think 2018 drop.
Yeah, do you realize how long ago 2018 was?
6 years ago.
It feels a lot longer than it should. And they got caught up with COVID, but they started touring in 2018, 2019. And I have my reasons for knowing this. But what I'm saying is the reason why we're seeing Robots in Disguise, we're seeing Energon, is that the kids who watched those
kid who watched those grew up, and now they're the collectors. That's what I was saying about Beast Wars. Yeah,
and it's going to keep cycling like that. And then I think eventually, maybe 20 years from now, it's going to be this legacy line that is out now that everybody's nostalgic for, and we're going to see that get recycled again. I'm just going to recycle all the recycled goods.
Yeah, I mean, and no, it's going to stop because, like, I'm already 52. And at the rate I'm going, if I hit 60, it kind of will be a miracle. Like, at some point, the people with the nostalgia for this stuff are going to start dying off.
That's true. And I'm not trying to be morbid, but yes, there is a certain demographic that it's...
But that's like, it's the double-edged sword, because first of all, the whole toy industry has changed completely. So now, like, the way to survive is to feed... It's like the same thing happened with comic books, where they were just kind of feeding off the same whales who kept, coming in and buying the stuff that they always bought and being nostalgic. And, then they had the bright idea of changing everything up and making it better, and they drove all the old collectors away because they thought they could bring in new people. It didn't work. And now if those things weren't accounting errors for, like, major corporations, we wouldn't have comic books anymore. Because those things lose money like crazy.
Oh, yeah.
But it's happening with toys too. Like and it's funny because the toy companies were real reluctant to get on board, which is why you have the ramen toy, why you have NECA, why you have all these guys that are like, happy to jump in and make stuff for the nostalgic old people market.
Yeah.
But like, there aren't going to be, I mean, like, if I say this, someone's going to go, well, my kid loves Star Wars as much as I do. And I would say, does he love Star Wars or does he love bonding with his dad? And you will have an ever shrinking group of younger people who have an affinity for this product, for this genre, or for this, for toys, for the brands. I'm trying to think of the name I want, but like like Transformers or G.I. Joe or Star Wars.
A property. Yeah.
Property. Yeah. I mean, it's a shrinking market, and unfortunately, like the attempts to like make them new and hip and hot are not working out well.
Well, I will say, just to go back really quickly about the Transformers, only because, like I said, Steve and I haven't had a chance to talk about it, and really, Steve really isn't that interested in it. I'm sending you guys the poster, and I'm sending you the link to where the poster is on T-Formers. So far, now granted, they're not going to announce all the 40th anniversary stuff.
Okay, like
now, but so
there's
far,
Optimus Prime.
Okay, but what?
Character.
That's animated.
Hold on.
Ooh.
Bumblebee, that unique new character.
Hold on. Yes, you are correct. Yes, there are Optimus Primes and Bumblebees. However, this was from Transformers Animated, the cartoon network.
So different in that.
The design?
Kind of. He was the design. Oh, come on. Oh, he's a slightly different truck.
No,
I thought you were actually going to say because he was a younger, unexperienced field commander. Because I watched that show.
He is, and he was.
But it's Optimus fucking Prime.
Wow, this is like it's Multiverse of Madness poster here.
Yeah, I love the guy in the. I can't remember his name, but I've got the figure, and I love that guy, the combiner that's like the three dinosaurs.
Galvatron, Magmatron.
No, he's not Galvatron. He's not Magnetron. He's something else. He's not Tripredacus because that's bugs.
Megazord.
No.
It's close enough. But I see, I think that's an Energon.
It's Energon Galvatron. So the list here the official Transformers SNS updates, the new poster, Transformers Legacy United revealed that Hasbro PulseCon 2023 by artist Guido Guidi. Guido Guidi, amazing dude. Love the poster. Keep it up.
That's right. Magmatron.
Illustration presents Wave 1 characters and more than meets the reveals, including the following possible characters that we will all hope get new toys. Animated Optimus Prime and Bumblebee, Armada Tidal Wave, Armada Combined Megatron and Tidal Wave Weapon Mode, Beast Wars Neo Magmatron, Beast Wars Tigerhawk, which that's one of the ones that I'm excited for just to see more of that. Beast Wars Second Tasmanian Kid, Cyberverse Windblade, Energon Galvatron, Infernac, Boulder Crash. So the Armorizers are the new gimmick thing that Hasbro is going to be doing. It's similar to the Weaponizers that they did a couple of years ago. Junkion, blah, 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 Prime Thundertron, and RID 2015 Chase. All of these, while I will admit, Dave, you are correct. Yes, that is Optimus Prime. Yes, that is Bumblebee. But that is not Generation 1 Optimus Prime and Bumblebee in design. Like, it's not under the generation. That entire list, there are no Generation 1 toys at all.
Okay, they went back to the well and burned the candle and said, new character for 2023, Optimus Prime. But he's different.
So, honestly, I'll say what this kind of looks like to me is that somebody had a massive Transformers collection bumped into the shelf. Anything that fell, they turned that into the next cartoon.
I wish this would be the next cartoon. It would be super cool.
Well, if I went and knocked down my Transformers collection right now from that shelf, it would look something, it wouldn't be these characters. I have, I think, 2 or 3 of the characters on this, but that's really... It looks like the Multiverse of Madness. It looks like the Flash movie that just came out of all these crazy crossovers. This is someone who's got the toys left over and decides, I'm going to play with all of them at the same time.
Well, and again, that's the same kind of thing that they did with last year. They did the Legacy Evolution, and they have another... I'm not going to send you guys the link, but I'll send you the picture of the poster. This was what they did last year. And there's literally there's everything coming out of portals and all that and everything else. But there's Junkions, there's Lio Convoy, there's all these things, and my point is I love what they're doing. Like, I want these posters. I don't even like half the toys that are in the United poster, but I want that damn poster because that poster is freaking cool.
Oh, Armada Hotshot is always going to be one of my favorites.
Oh, Lord. Hotshot. Only because they couldn't use Hot Rod at the time.
Oh, it's not. I like the design. It was one of my first Transformers when I started collecting again.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
I'm just looking at these cool new characters like Trax and Grimlock and
the
Blood,
Junkions,
Swoop and the Insecticons and these hot new characters that were completely different.
But don't we want modern versions of those classic?
Did we not get modern versions of those classics?
I mean,
well, Energon and Armada, I think, needed a massive upgrade, and we're getting it.
Yeah, Energon, the Unicron trilogy toys did need a massive upgrade.
I mean, look, I will probably get Magmatron because I think that's a cool design, and I have the vintage, I guess you would call it one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I'm not arguing that it's cool to give some of the secondary characters a little love, but I mean, my whole point was that they're not doing anything new, Mike. This isn't new. This is like Multiverse of Madness. This is like the Flash movie where it's all the stuff that you know and love, you know. I mean, did you see the Flash movie, Josh?
I have not watched it from start to finish. I've seen enough to know.
The big crossover scene is like, or the big quote crossover scene has like Christopher Reeve, and it has
Nicolas Cage.
It has Nicolas Cage, but it has Batman, like the TV Batman.
Ben Affleck, yeah.
No, not Ben Affleck.
That's
Adam West.
Adam West. Yeah, Affleck's in it, but it has Adam. Aside from Nicolas Cage, which was a neat little Easter egg, which apparently people are annoyed about, but I liked it. But again, it's stuff that you know. And what I'm saying is, there's only so long you can go before the people who know what this stuff is will be dead. And then you have no one to sell it. You either try to present it as something new, which might work, but I mean, if it did work, it would be working with the kids of today who don't play with toys. I'm just saying, like, this thing has a shelf life,
and right? And I understand that
fast,
but
and you are that, like, a slightly different Optimus Prime is a bold new move is not a bold, especially since a slightly different Optimus Prime is based on something from 23 years ago. The move is not as bold or new as you seem to be arguing.
Even I will say that, like,
my point is that everything in the Legacy United poster, minus the Transformers animated figures, is stuff that I like. That's not my it's perfectly fine, but that's not my generation of Transformers. I don't know those characters. I didn't sit here and watch Armada, Energon, and Cybertron from beginning to end. Have I seen them? Have I seen various episodes? Do I know what they are? Absolutely. But as a Transformers fan, it's not my bag. That's my point, is that what they've revealed so far is for the people that aren't 21, 22-year-old TFG1 Mike in the early 2000s who was going through other things and going through life and wasn't really into the Transformers stuff. It's for, those people who were 14, 15, 16. And you're right, Dave. There is a shelf life on this stuff, but these companies have to cater. That's the problem with it being a shelf life. They got to find a way to cater to everybody. Cater to you, cater to me, cater to Josh, cater to the younger generations. And that's why I love all of the variety. Like, that Windblade, I think, is the core class stuff for Transformers. Like, how they can get that much detail in something that small is genius to me. I don't know. We're just a bunch of old men arguing about toys, folks.
I mean, yeah. So that was the point.
I just I don't have a problem necessarily with Transformers recycling like that. I think it's for someone like me who Transformers was always on the periphery for me growing up.
Right. Yeah.
It was never really something I had a ton of. It was, I'd go to a KB Toys or Toy Liquidator and, give me one of those GoBot Transformers, because there's that sub-series of GoBots in Transformers.
Yep.
Ooh, I'll take one of those. And I never had an Optimus Prime. I don't think I even ever had a Megatron growing up as a kid. I knew who they were. But as a collector, it's been nice I've been hunting down my favorite version of Optimus Prime, and I finally decided to stop because you can only buy so many and sell so many.
Exactly.
And I do have to.
I mean, that's sort of my point. Ultimately, is like as a Star Wars guy, like I will never buy another Darth Vader. I don't need one. Same. Like there are just things that I don't need. As you know, because they keep remaking him over and over again. They just like one of the few vintage collection figures they announced, because that's what I collect, and of course it gets like nothing. Was Obi-Wan versus Darth Vader. It's like just like.
Well, that was my.
I'm just saying I'm tired of the same things over and over.
Yeah, and that was my exact concern with the Adventure series for Indiana Jones. It sort of became that Simpsons joke with Barbie of, look, he has a new hat. But it was the same thing, and I think that's one of the reasons why that line has pretty much failed is...
Oh, that line chaps me, because like they had some characters in 6-inch scale that they didn't do the last time around.
Yeah,
and
which...
It claws at my heart.
And then they have some that they did in 4-inch scale that they're never going to do in the 6-inch scale, which I understand the political reasons for doing so.
Yeah.
But that was a line that when I saw it released, I'm like, if this gets to Series 3, I would be shocked. Because once you get that first initial Last Crusade, not Last Crusade, sorry.
Temple of Doom?
Not Temple of Doom. The first Indiana.
Ark.
Yeah, Lost Ark.
Okay.
Lost Ark Indy. Once you get that, I don't really think unless you want every iteration of Indy, you don't really need any more. That's a perfect Indiana Jones figure.
Well, it is, but I mean, to be fanboy about it, in the 4-inch scale, I do have like all the different because in Temple of Doom, he's kind of he doesn't have the jacket, his shirt's torn, and then in not Crystal Skull,
Last Crusade,
he's got the tie,
Yeah.
Tie.
He does.
I know.
Yeah, it's the Simpsons show.
When he was in the castle. Yeah. Kind of. I mean, I feel like there's somewhat legitimate variations.
But I think if you were going to just have an iconic,
if you just have one, you'd have the Raiders. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And it's still a really well done figure. I wish he had gloves, hands.
It is the only one that I have of that that line, the Adventure line, or whatever the hell it's called.
Of course, I got the Club Obi-Wan for, I think it was like $3 on clearance. I got that one.
See, that would be one I would love to have in the 4-inch scale.
I totally understand that. And he comes with really, really small accessories. He comes with a diamond. It's absolutely tiny. And I just didn't see a lifeline for that.
Well, I mean, the movie didn't. I mean, it's merchandising to support the movie, and the movie didn't go over. So,
did you see?
I think that's a big part of it. No,
really?
No.
I'm surprised.
Oh God, no! Why would I want to do that? I'm officially to the point in my life where why do I want to waste my time?
No, I understand. I just didn't know if you would just check it out to see if it really was the dumpster fire it was.
No.
Dial of Destiny or
Dial of Destiny.
Okay. Yeah, no, I have. And I've said this on other podcasts too. If I'm curious to find out just so I can know and I understand that it is editable by everybody on the planet, I will read the Wikipedia article to get the cliff notes for movies that I really don't care to see.
Crystal Skull just left a really bad taste in my mouth for the entire property, and it was hard to go back to that. It was really...
Well, I mean, that's why I was excited initially at the beginning. I was excited for the 5th one because Lucas was out, and I thought, okay, not to knock on Lucas, but a lot of Crystal Skull was Lucas. So maybe another one, a last hurrah you know, and then Spielberg was out and I was like, oh, and then just more and more, everything you heard about it just wasn't good. And then, you know, it was the Helena Shaw movie with Indiana Jones as her sidekick that she spends the entire, apparently they meant it to be cute and light, but it was basically her picking on Indy the whole movie for being an old white man. It's like, I don't want to see I already saw Picard. I don't need to see this. Like,
I think
I don't need to see this.
Dave, I feel like we watched the same review.
Probably. I mean, it was every review. It was every review and every criticism. And it was like, but I've heard that it was supposed to be more playful, more teasing, and it was just that the actress didn't pull it off. And it sounded really kind of like she was picking on him. She was being mean to him. And I don't want to see, like, then there was this whole thing about, like, spoilers, what happened to Mutt, and that he broke up. Like, this stuff was a big deal to me because my dad left when I was, like, 9. And Han Solo and Indiana Jones were, like, my male role models. Like, they were very important to me. And both of them have been presented in these movies as bad dads, bad husbands. Like, and it's just like, it hurts. It sucked to, like, see the characters that you grew up and idolized basically knocked down so that, you know, other characters can rise and shine. It's like, that's not how you need to do it. You could do it in a way that, like, you know, the other person lifts, like the old timer helps lift up the newcomer. And also it would help if the newcomer actually had anything worthwhile about them. Yeah. Like, and didn't just, like, have an attitude that I'm better than everybody. I mean, it's just very lazy, right? That's one of the reasons, like, I am done. Like, we're doing Ahsoka, and then I'm out until maybe Andor season 2. No, so I'm not kidding. Like, I am not going to watch The Acolyte. I'm done with Disney. Disney kind of pooched it. They spent $4 billion to turn Star Wars into a girls' property, and I don't think Star Wars. I mean, I know it leaned heavily towards boys, but every woman I know of my generation knows Star Wars, idolizes Princess Leia. Like, it may have leaned towards boys, but it didn't necessarily push away girls. And now it's boys not welcome. So I'm like, I'm done. Not to get political, but that's just,
right. Yeah.
The way Han was treated, the way Indy was treated. I'm done with all of it. Like, I'm actually literally, sorry, this is not about toys, but I'm literally going back to rewatch Deep Space Nine, which I never really watched. Just to kind of go back into the archives and find good stuff from the olden days, because there's plenty of it, and I don't need the new stuff.
Yeah, and I totally understand a lot of your points. Sorry, Mike.
Okay.
I totally understand a lot of your points, and I do see a lot of what you're saying. And for me, I don't mind if a property does lean towards supporting girl characters, but like you said, if you're discrediting and destroying established characters to do so, and
well,
not
in wrestling, it's called
so,
jobbing. Like
exactly. Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
they're jobbing the old characters to make the new characters go over, and apparently in wrestling that never works.
But not
everybody
even
knows what it is. So,
or even, I mean, it wasn't even a good match, to use the wrestling metaphor. It was just a short, pointless match that left everybody confused. And no, I totally see that. And it's hard because as much as I hate to be that person, like, oh, they ruined my childhood, seeing that development does sort of, for me, not taint, but it does change my view of that character, because now I know where they go.
No, see, it doesn't ruin my childhood because, like, as Alan Moore said, they're all imaginary stories. So for me, it's very easy to draw the line at Disney. It's like, okay, like, because I'm old enough that I was the Marvel comics and the old Han Solo books and the Ewok movies and the cartoons, and then all that got thrown out the window in the 90s for the expanded universe, you know, the Thrawn trilogy and Dark Empire and all that stuff. Like, so I've seen a universe be thrown away and burned before, and then Disney took over and threw away and burned that universe. So I've got no problems, like, pushing the end button at, you know, everybody on Endor celebrating, like, and there, you know, I know it sounds like a normal, like a stereotypical man-child going, there was no episode 7, 8, 9, and I know they exist. I know in official continuity they're there, and you can't get rid of them. Although a lot of movies do that nowadays. A lot of movies just basically like go, okay, those sequels don't count. I mean, they do that all the time now.
Halloween.
But yeah, Halloween, Jurassic World kind of did that. Because Jurassic World never really acknowledged like the Lost World or the third one. But like, I mean, kind of did in the last one, but the last one was terrible anyway. My point being, it's very easy for me to go, okay, this is like Clue. This is one possible ending, but I don't like it, and I can ignore it, and one day someone will come up with a better one. Like,
that's a quick question I have: is that will they ever try to reboot Star Wars, and how long would they have to wait to do that?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't think they can do it right now.
No, it was it was how long between Return of the Jedi and episode 1?
Phantom Menace, 83 to 99, so just over 10 years, 15 years maybe?
Yeah.
16, yeah. So, and that allowed the Star Wars fandom to, I think, ferment and grow and blossom and...
See, yeah, that's the thing, but the problem, that's the logical thing. The problem with that is these corporations, these toy companies, these rights holders, whatever you want to call them, the giant mouse, whatever. Number one, the giant mouse needs a lot of money right now. Number two, they want to continue to make money, and they have to basically, anybody, not just us, not just the diehard fans, not just the stands, not just the whatevers, they need to beat everybody, us, the normal people, the kids, everybody over the head with the butt of a lightsaber, because they need the money. That's the problem, is that they need the money. They can't afford to let a franchise sit for 15, 16 years ever again. That's the biggest problem.
But at the same time, they're like, you're burning your food, like, because the more terrible things you make, the more you damage the property, and the less money you get out of it. Like, I understand that they need money, but like in a weird way, the strike has kind of proven that like apparently movie companies can actually do better almost like in a fallow period, because you don't have to pay for, you're not throwing all this money after a movie that bombs.
Yeah.
Apparently someone did the math, and like Lucasfilm alone has cost Disney $1 billion this year. Like,
doesn't surprise me. Nothing surprise with all of the like. Okay, so people won't have heard this yet because it doesn't come out until November or so. But Dave and I recorded a different show, Studio 2009, here on the Geekcast Radio Network, the Empire of Podcasts. We recorded episode 66, which was Revenge of the Sith. And most of the time when I'm giving background information for films or whatever, I will talk about the budget. I told Dave what the budget was and what the box office was, and he's like, holy crap, for 2005, that's a lot. And I'm like, yeah, it's even more, like, the budget versus box office stuff. Like, I can't believe Rise of the Beasts practically bombed. It didn't make its money back. I liked the movie, but it didn't make its money back because I think it was released at the wrong time.
Well, yeah, release dates make a big difference. And you have that Hollywood accounting where a movie might actually look profitable, but then it turns out to actually have not made any money at all. And there's been a ton of lawsuits about that. But I think there's fatigue. There's superhero movie fatigue. There's Transformers 100%. Fatigue. Yeah. There's the hardcore fandom is growing. It's changing. And when I was at Target today, I was walking through the media section heading over to the NECA aisle, and I'm seeing a trailer for the Little Mermaid movie.
A live action one.
Yeah, and now we have a mutual friend who loves The Little Mermaid. I have yet to hear his feelings.
He liked it. He thought it was good.
Oh, interesting.
But I'm seeing and hearing the amount of work they put into that film, and I'm just wondering, and I'm sitting here as an uninformed, idiotic,
It depends on. I know where you're going with this. I think I know where you're going with this, Josh, and it depends on who you ask. Like, detractors will say it did not make money, and Disney will say it did make money. The problem is, these days, these films are so expensive, and it costs, and then the thing is, you also have to add in, they don't have marketing as part of the baseline for the cost of the movie, so you got to double it for marketing. And then remember, if a movie makes if you give a theater your $1 to see the movie, Disney doesn't get that $1. Disney gets a portion of that $1.
Yeah.
And that's actually why everything's so kind of screwed up and based towards opening weekend, and not like keeping movies in theaters all year long anymore, because the percentage of what the theater gets versus what the studio gets changes the longer you go. Like the studio gets opening weekend, and then the theater gets later receipts. But it doesn't get all of it. It never gets all of it. And also different countries like, China. Oh, we got the Chinese market. Oh, the Chinese market. Yeah, Chinese don't give you dick back. Like, they give you nothing. And then a lot of these markets don't give you the percentage, the studios, the percentage. So it's like, it made $100 million worldwide. Yeah, and the studios see maybe 30 million of that. Well, so when you spend, like, what I'm saying is when you have like $600 million invested in a movie like Indiana Jones, you got to make like about $1 billion.
Yeah. Well, where I was actually going with that was.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were going with how much it cost.
I took yes, but I also kind of took a left turn in that. Yes, that movie cost a huge amount, and I was just wondering, like, they could have come out with and taken the chance on a new property for a lot less and a lot lower risk. And I don't know what the risk is compared with a established property like Little Mermaid, which is now
very high.
But I don't know what Pixar's come out with some properties that Encanto was no established characters, just Pixar being the established brand.
Yep.
And it was hugely popular. I don't know the comparison.
But it had a very bad initial theatrical run, and then went immediately to Disney Plus, and that's where it built an audience.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, when I was walking past it, why couldn't they find another fairy tale? Why couldn't they find something else just to give that same magic to, or a lesser known story, give that same magic to? Because
money. It's all about the name recognition. That's why they keep,
Yeah, and they're taking those chances on it, and they're not getting me out to the theater. I mean, I want to see the Barbie movie, I'll be honest. I want to see that. That sounds interesting, but that also hasn't been done before in the theaters unless you're 5 years old. And maybe
so just for reference, again, going back to Transformers, every other Transformers movie has broken $1 billion. Rise of the Beasts, worldwide, 438,966,392. Rise of the Beasts did not break $1 billion at the box office. That, to me, sucks because it's one of my... if I take all 7 of those films, that's probably my second favorite of the 7, I guess? Maybe? And that's crazy because it is what it is. And you guys are right. They have these things and they will try a limited theatrical run or something, and we are still coming off of COVID and all that and everything else. You guys know this. Unless I have to, and everyone listening to the sound of my voice knows this, I don't leave my apartment. So I was more than happy to, if I had it, if I wanted to spend it, to spend that extra money to see something on Disney Plus early, kind of that early access stuff. I'm more than happy to sit here on my ass in my own space and watch whatever versus having to, number one, find public transportation to a movie theater. Number two, sit there for 2.5 hours with complete strangers that I don't know and I have no interest in getting to know them. Kind of like, I'm all about that instantaneous stuff where it's like, if I can have it now at home, I'm more than happy for it. And I will pay what I have to, like, within reason, but I'll pay what I have to pay to be able to do that.
Yeah, and I'm there with you because, right now at home I have a wonderful basement bar. It's very comfortable. I can have whatever I want there from my kitchen, and I don't have to sit next to a guy who's shoveling 3 buckets of popcorn into his face and chewing louder than anything I've ever heard. I couldn't even hear the film the last time I was at the theater.
How did you know I bought 3 buckets of popcorn? You stalker.
I counted after the second. But no, one of the last times I was there, we paid the higher prices. We had the big comfy seat, and it's great. But this guy is just shoveling popcorn like maybe he didn't eat that day, maybe he didn't eat that week, and it was just frustrating. And I'm okay spending a little bit more money to just sit home or just wait a little longer. Like I can watch Barbie at home; it's okay.
Absolutely.
But here's the thing, like that approach is ultimately. I mean, maybe it'll be a good thing, maybe it won't, but you're not going to get a movie like Endgame down the road. Because movies make money, streaming has a limited, how do you want to say it? Like a limited pool of people to buy into it.
Sorry, phone went off.
So, like, I mean, sooner or later, they're throwing money at it now. But, like, sooner or later, it's just not going to be financially effective to spend $300. Because something like Endgame, needs a $300 million budget, and you're not going to get that. You're not going to get the spectacle. I like going to movies. I hear everything you're saying about like other people in the movie theater. I have like weird little things where I like to sit in the far back because that way nobody can get behind you and get your chair or throw crap or talk. But I think when you have a crowd that's into it. Like in Endgame, when all the portals open, everybody comes out. I still remember Batman '89. Yeah. When you finally see that it's the bat symbol that you've been looking at through the opening credits, and 300 people in the theater went whoa at the same time. Star Trek 4 we saw opening night with a crowd of Trekkies, and they're cheering every credit and going crazy. Like I think when you can get that kind of an experience, seeing in a theater is an experience. It's not just like if there's something I don't care about and I just want to see the movie or know what happens, I like Mike said, I can read the Wikipedia article. Yep. The part of going to a movie in the theater is the experience. And I'm not saying that other people can't ruin it because people ruin everything and I don't like people, but sometimes you get lucky and you get the experience you want and it's something that you remember and it lasts with you and it's magic. All I'm saying.
I'm just wondering if that experience is going to be and the end games and those big films, I'm just wondering if those are still going to be a thing going forward.
No. I mean, they're either going to bankrupt themselves or they're not going to do that anymore. I mean, there's some new thing from Tony Gilroy who did the Rogue One and Andor, and it only cost like $80 million to make, and it looks fantastic. It looks like a $300 million movie. I think if you have standards, you know what you're doing. I also think part of it is, I'm going off on a tangent.
What?
I think the movies have to be good. And I don't think they've been good recently. Like, I think you have to, part of it is, with Ahsoka, the thing is, it's so geared for Star Wars heads, that it's not really accessible to people who aren't Star Wars fans. And there's very little in the series that's very welcoming to Star Wars fans. I think you just gotta make the product good. If the product's good, people will come to it. And if the product's not good, if the product's just another, this guy fights this guy and, the character we like, especially when you add in undermining the characters that people already like. I think it's a 1-2 punch and the story's not that good. Then it's just, they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars on garbage. It's literally like the Joker from Dark Knight, where he's burning the huge piles of money. And it's not about money, it's about sending a message. And it's okay, I got the message. Like I said, I saw Picard season 1. I don't need the story again and again and again and again. I'm done. Yeah. I'm done. I'm out.
Yeah. I agree with you to a certain point, but just like we will find out in part 2, but when we recorded part 1 of Ahsoka,
oh my God,
that show is not for normal people.
Okay,
it's
but how much did they look? No, I hear what you're saying, but how much did they spend on a show that's not? I mean, because it looks like the one positive thing I'll say about that show is it looks fantastic. All the money they threw at it, it's on the screen. To be fair, but how much money do they spend on a show that's not for everybody? it should, and it's Star Wars. Star Wars should be for everybody. It should be very rare that you do something that's and my problem is that my beloved Andor is not for everybody. So like but I also think that show was good. It was written well. It's interesting. Where I think this one is very sloppy and just, you can't spend hundreds of millions of dollars on a thing that's not for everybody. You can spend $80 million on a thing that's not for everybody. You can spend indie movie budgets on things that are not for everybody. But if it's not for everybody, you're an idiot for spending all that money.
I think with the Disney Plus, even though they've gotten multiple seasons on some of them, with the Disney Plus limited series, the 6-episode series stuff, I think that's because they want people coming back. I also think that half of those shows that are those 6 episodes or whatever, 8 episodes, could be a 2.5, 3 hour film. If you restructure it just a little bit and work it as a film, it could work. And I think the reason why Disney does this is they are not trying to get, like, for me, and I mentioned this to Dave on the other show, and I'm willing to go back and try. No skin off my back. Back in 2016 or whenever the hell Rogue One came out, the only time I got interested in it was when the big black suit guy showed up with his red stick at the end. I had no interest in any of those characters back then. However, I'm willing to try it again to see if I do have interest, and the way that Dave and I are going to eventually do that on the other show is we're actually going to start with the Endor series and see if it's going to sway me at all. Okay. So yeah, we're going to take a quick ad break. You're going to hear some ads and some other stuff, and we're going to come back to close the show right after this.
I'm K-Dog. And I'm Fish, and you're listening to Toy Cast with Mike and Dave. If you like Funko Pops and pop culture, check out our channel at K-Dog and Fish on everything, including a Wicked podcast and YouTube channel.
Thanks for listening, and see you soon.
Hello, geeks and geekettes. Looking for a podcast that covers a vast array of topics? Then check out Altered Geek Unleashed, where we discuss our thoughts on this week's geeky news, tech, gaming, television shows, movies, cartoons, comics, and more. So, get altered, get geeky with the Altered Geeks. Every Friday on the Geekcast Radio Network.
Because the world needs another movie podcast.
The Geekcast Radio Network presents for your listening pleasure the Cinema Geek.
Hosted by Amanda, Kevin, Matt, and Dan.
Each week we dive headfirst in the landscape of movies as we discuss movie news, play movie games,
go in-depth on reviews,
and even have a top 10 countdown or two.
Also, don't miss our director retrospective series, where we review noted directors' movies film by film. Bottom line is, if you love movies and love podcasts, you need to experience the Cinema Geeks.
You can find us on iTunes, Blog Talk Radio, or GeekCastRadio.com.
Like science fiction? Of course you do, or you wouldn't be listening to the Geekcast Radio Network. Well, the Mark Who 42's Universe podcast is an award-winning sci-fi radio show that's been around for over 10 years. We cover everything from Doctor Who to the MCU to pop culture and everything in between. A new show drops on Tuesday mornings on the GCRN website and all of the major podcast platforms. So listen to the Mark Who 42's Universe podcast from the universe and beyond.
Hello, all sentient beings. Want the latest on everything going on in the Transformers multiverse? Check out the Transmissions Podcast Network. We've got weekly podcasts covering everything from Alpha Trion to Omega Supreme, from old school G1 all the way up to Cyberverse and beyond. And you don't want to miss Empire of Rust, the world's first and only Transformers live play role-playing game podcast. If you love Transformers, there's something for everyone at transmissionspodcast.com.
Discover a world of vintage and modern toys that's more than meets the eye with the Triple Takeover Toycast.
Hosted by toy writers and photographers Toybox Soapbox, 6O, and TF Square 1, this informal and chilled out series of discussions cover everything from vintage Transformers to Mask, Diaclone, Microman, and more, be it nostalgic or current.
Whether you're a seasoned collector or a casual robot enthusiast, all are welcome.
Triple Takeover Toycast.
All right, folks, this has been Toycast, episode 184. I'm, of course, TF and Mike. Dave and Josh are here with me. Once around the room, final thoughts, anything you want to say before I run through the closing, Josh?
I just appreciate that we went from Ninja Force Zartan all the way to movie politics. I actually am very proud of being part of that conversation.
And Dave?
I'm sorry I dragged it in that conversation, that direction. I keep derailing all these things. I'm very sorry.
No. This is why I wanted to be part of these with you. I actually really enjoy this. So thank you.
The holders are cool.
Yeah.
Yes, they are. They're very much Audrey 3 like. Thank you for joining us here on Toycast. If you'd like to get in contact with us or leave feedback for the show, there are several ways to do so. Visit the website, geekcastradio.com, where you can listen to and comment on all of our content. Send an email to feedback@geekcastradio.com. Here are all the ways you can listen to us nowadays: Apple and Google Podcasts. Leave us reviews, please. Spotify and any other podcatching client you choose to use. Follow us on X at Geekcast Radio for the network, at TF Toycast for the show. I am at TF2 and Mike. Become a fan on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/Geekcast Radio Network. You can also check out TF Toycast over there, as well as joining the Toy World Order fans group. Next time on Toycast, it'll be another display case as we are going on more adventures with toys and things and heading towards this top 100 toys countdown. So, for now, I am TF2 and Mike with
Josh the Four-Burger.
Dave River.
Join us next time when we'll be talking more toys here on Toycast.